Commissioner Buttleman.
Okay.
So maybe we can just give him a moment.
Sure. I have a guest hammer slammer.
Yeah, what is it tonight?
Come here. They want to see the hammer slammer. Come here, hammer slammer. It's an actual mallet this time.
Not like a stuffed squirrel or whatever it was last time.
Right? See, show them what it is. It's a rubber mallet.
Oh, very official.
Yeah. Not yet. We're just.
Thanks for your service, sir.
She said, "Thank you for your service, sir."
Could I let the dogs back in?
No, not yet.
All right. It looks like our broadcast, they're ready to roll whenever you're ready to start. I have not heard from Commissioner Buttleman, so we'll just go ahead and hope that he joins us.
Sounds good. Hey, except I lost my hammer slammer.
Oh, shoot.
Elijah! Eli! We're waiting
hammer.
on you, buddy. Not yet, not yet. Okay, wait until I tell you, okay? You ready? Where are you? Where are you? Come here. Come here, right here. Not hard. Ready? Hold on. Wait till I say it. Okay.
How many times do I have to slam it?
Just one time. Okay. Are you practicing? I know. I'm like, it is Monday, November 16th, 2020 for the Environmental and Natural Resource Commission meeting starting at 7:03 p.m. Go. Woo! Good job. So that was Elijah, in case anybody was wondering. Yeah.
When I slam that hammer, I lose my life.
Okay. All right. Roll call. Let's see. Mr. Bowman's not here yet. Commissioner, I'm going to say it wrong. Dozier, hi.
Hi, Doser.
Doser, thank you. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. All right. And Commissioner Miller, me. Commissioner Okeson, absent. Commissioner Palzer.
Here.
Commissioner Redmond.
Here.
Oh my gosh. Commissioner Toddy. Did I say it right?
Here.
Okay. Doser. Okay. All right. Is that all? Do I have any more? Ms. Finwell?
No, you covered it.
Oh, whew. All right. All right. We need, has everybody gotten a chance to look at the agenda? Hey. Okay. Hey. You can put him back in his kennel. I don't know why they decided to let the puppy out. I'm so sorry. The only thing I see is Kayla is already a chairperson. Commissioner Doser is already a chairperson on the.
Oh, Madam Chair. The first Madam Chair. I think we're still on approval of agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody have any changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Commissioner Palzer makes a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Redmond seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passed. Any nays or abstentions? I think you were all here last time. Looks like it is approved. And now we can do the minutes from October 19th. That's where Commissioner Doser is awesome chairperson. It may not be long. It may be you soon.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Correct that.
No worries. Is there anything else that anybody noticed? That's the only thing I noticed and actually didn't notice till just now. Hey, I know he's cute. Can you put him in his kennel, please? Mm-mm. Okay. Okay, I need a motion for the
I'll move to approve.
as amended.
As submitted, yes.
Toddy, Commissioner Toddy, did you second?
Yeah, second.
Yes, awesome. Way to jump in there. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes for October 19th meeting is accepted as amended. All right, let's get down to the meat. Unfinished business, Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Ordinance. And all of its small print.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the commission. I know that was a lot to get through, so don't be discouraged. Tonight, we're just going to let it absorb in, and we're going to talk through a few things, and we'll bring back more for all of us to go through in the coming months. So for, I think, ease of moving forward, I have a short presentation with some fun pictures. So why don't I go through that? Sit back and let me take the reins here. Share my screen. All right. I would like one thumbs up if you can see it and hear me. Okay, thank you very much. So tonight we will continue our discussion on the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area Ordinance. And we did have an introduction to this during our September and October meetings. In October, we had a representative from the Friends of Mississippi River come and discuss some of the history, so that was very interesting and helpful. So for background, the current ordinance was adopted, the new rules were adopted on January 4th, 2017. And this was after much deliberation by the Department of Natural Resources and local governments and coming up with these new rules, which then the legislature adopted in 2017. And a requirement now is that all local governments update their ordinances on the new rules, their ordinance and their comprehensive plans. And the city of Maplewood actually adopted a new amended comprehensive plan for 2040. It's the 2040 comprehensive plan, looks out that far. And we adopted an amended Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area management plan, that looks out to the future 10 years. So as we're looking at our ordinance review, we need to make sure that we're always kind of looking at the guide that the city created in the last year or so. And the deadline for this review, which the Environmental Commission will be spearheading here, is October 1st of 2021. They're giving us 1 year after the date that they had announced that the city has to begin that process. So for your information, in Maplewood, we have just a small portion of the critical area corridor, and that is located on our southern borders. And that little area, which is south of Carver Avenue and west of 494, encompasses, let's see, where is that? 145 acres. And of that, 75% is guided as open space. So you can see the Fish Creek open space site there, as well as Ramsey County, which is just to the south of that. So there's quite a bit of open space. And then the rest is made up of rural low-density housing, which is 35 single-family homes that are located along Carver Avenue and Dorland Road. And you can see that on the northern portion of that corridor. And then running through that corridor, you can see Fish Creek, which is a great asset to that open space site and the city's natural resources. So 2 weeks ago, I believe, I took a fun tour of the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area. Of course, Fish Creek opened a couple years ago, but I hadn't been out there in a while. So I stopped at that open space site and I took a hike. So I started out at that Fish Creek open space parking and I walked up through the trails, which are paved trails, and it walks up to the top of the bluff and it overlooks the river. You can see some hints of the river and you can see some hints of the skyline from St. Paul. And then I was really feeling adventurous, so I drove around to the single family homes to see, what's going on with those single family homes and how will this affect those homeowners. And really, from the roadway, you cannot see, any of that corridor or the beautiful ravine down below. You get a few sight lines of maybe some nice vistas looking out on some of those properties, but mainly, it's pretty blocked off, and the only people that are really enjoying it are those homeowners that look out onto it from their backyard. So I know that the Nature Center and the Naturalists, they used to host an annual Fish Creek hike where we would all meet at Oakwood Church, which is actually in St. Paul, along that frontage road for Highway 61. And there's actually a rustic foot trail that you can take from that church into the corridor there along the river. And all of that is Ramsey County land. So, it's perfectly fine to go ahead and take a hike through there. And right now the church, they're not even open. So there's huge amount of parking. So I walked through that corridor and it was just absolutely beautiful. And I looked up to see, how some of those homes that back up to that corridor, if you can actually see the homes, and even with many of them like 40-foot setback to that bluff impact zone is what they call it. You could see some of the rooftops, and then there were some structures like maybe sheds, or there was kind of this pergola that looked down upon it that you could see. So those must have been really close to the bluff impact zone. So here are some of the pictures from my hike. This is on the Fish Creek open space site. Over the last few years, the city and the county have been doing a wonderful job with restoration to native prairie oak savanna. They're actually doing some studies up there, the U of M, on trees and pollinators. And of course, the naturalists used to bring school children out there to do a lot of programming. And then you could see that skyline, St. Paul. So that was really fun to see. And in our comprehensive plan now, there are requirements that adjacent cities kind of respect those skyline views. So if St. Paul, who is beyond here, below the bluff line, wanted to build a giant skyscraper here, the comprehensive plan and Met Council guidelines for the critical area would prohibit that because they'd be restricting our views. And then down into the corridor here, where the creek runs through, it really cuts into, the limestone there, and there's a little waterfall. And I saw all sorts of nature and wildlife. So if you haven't gotten out there, try and take a tour soon. I do know that this next weekend they'll be having a scheduled archery hunt in Fish Creek to manage the deer. So don't go out there this weekend, or it might have been that last weekend. At any rate, check the website for updates on that. Now moving on, that was the fun part. You see what we have to preserve? That's fun, but this can be a little monotonous, but now you know why we want to go through this, because we want to preserve that great resource. So our current ordinance was adopted in probably the 1970s, back when the original executive order for the critical area was passed. And it's very minimal. It's only about a paragraph or two. And then in addition, we also have an ordinance on slopes that covers slopes throughout the city, but we really should review that as part of this update. But tonight we're just going to look at the critical area first. So as part of this whole rulemaking process, the DNR drafted a draft ordinance that can be used by local governments. So I just really heavily depended on that model ordinance and utilized much of the language being proposed in our updates from there. And of course, their model ordinance had to cover all sorts of other land uses, such as land uses along the within Minneapolis, within St. Paul. So it was quite an extensive ordinance, and we really can narrow it down to just our area and the land uses there. But the model ordinance does go over regulations for land adjacent to the Mississippi River and bluffs along the river, including development and vegetative management, which is something new that we don't currently have in our ordinance. So I'm going to go over the sections that were added. And if you have a question, please feel free to stop me. Otherwise, this will take maybe 4 minutes. We'll get through this, and then we'll just open up for discussion, see if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. So some of the changes that were made to the amended ordinance are the definitions. The model ordinance includes updated definitions such as bluff impact zone, which is, oh no, I'm forgetting, it's either 20 or 25 feet from an actual bluff. So they call that the bluff impact zone.
25.
25 feet. And I was surprised that our ordinance, we never had a definition for bluff or even steep slope for that matter. Then it goes into this section they call generally, but it talks about the boundaries for the MRCCA land area, how the city and local governments can enforce the ordinance, and the fact that all the uses that are allowed on the underlying zoning, because they're calling this an overlay. You have your underlying, which is the residential and the open space, and the overlay, which is the MRCCA. So of course, all of those uses that can be permitted or are prohibited within those zoning districts, like in our single family, you can build one single family home. So of course, all of those can be allowed, plus there's certain restrictions now because they're in the MRCCA. The section on administration, it talks about if the city were to approve variances or conditional use permits within that MRCCA, what would those conditions look like? What would the city need to prove to approve those? And then regulations on nonconformities. And here will be a big component of the city's ordinance change, because we do know that the single family houses that are out there, the 35, I had estimated, I think in our last meeting, that it was about 18 that may be built closer than that 100 feet to the bluff impact zone. So those houses are considered pre-existing non-conforming, and how we regulate that is something that we should look at closely. And in the rules, it does allow a city to, of course, allow those to be maintained, and also for those structures to, have additions and things like that, as long as those additions don't encroach further towards the bluff impact. And, that happens a lot of the time where, you might have a portion of your house sets back further than maybe your garage. So now you could do a little addition behind the garage as long as it doesn't encroach further to that bluff. So that'll allow those homes to maintain livability, for those families to grow into their homes if needed, without impacting further that bluff impact zone. It does define the districts, and Maplewoods district is classified as rural and open space. And that allows for those low density single family homes and then of course the open space site. Special use provisions. This is development standards for land uses. And some of these regulations we probably won't ever see in our lifetime out there because it already is platted as single family. So unless, we had a developer or someone buy a large tract of those single family homes and knock them down, for redevelopment, we probably wouldn't see a lot of the what they're calling out for regulations on special land use provisions. And then here's another area that this talks about the structure and height and placement. And again, that structure setback to bluff impact zone is increased to 100 feet instead of 40 feet. The structure height is the same as our current residential zoning, which is 35 feet. So that's won't impact those existing homes. There's some performance standards for public facilities that will likely impact, any kind of improvements that the city wants to do on the Fish Creek open space site, which, it's like overlooks, things like that. And of course, we want to protect those bluff impact zones as well. So it won't be a real hardship on the city to look at that. And then another big component that is something different is vegetative management. So there's certain areas of the MRCCA that they call out as, I'm forgetting what it's called, but sensitive areas, and if someone were to want to like clear cut an area of their backyard, they might have to get a permit from the city. And then there's also, depending on the management that the city is proposing in the county for our open space sites, there could be some permitting there as well. But generally speaking, what we're doing, which is preserving and bringing back that natural vegetation, would not require that permitting. And then, so the city has to come up with an actual process to permit some of this vegetative management. So that'll be something new. It goes into land alteration standards and stormwater management. And again, this would be more for a large development. So it's just something that we have to have in the ordinance just in case, but it's unlikely that we'll see something like that in our lifetime anyway. And then subdivision and land development standards, once again, mainly designed for larger developments. And then they have a table that includes exemptions from the height and setback requirements, like a bridge for a road. And again, these are things we likely won't see. So with that, I know I gave you a lot to look at, and it was really small writing. See, like that. Did you guys read it all? Well, anyway, I thought tonight I'd introduce it to you, get some comment and feedback, and then, we'll continue this. We've been through this before where we make changes, and then in a few months, it turns out to this beautiful, lovely ordinance that's very user-friendly. And then once that's complete by the ENR, we'll bring this to the Planning Commission for their review. We'll bring it back to the Environmental Commission one last time before it goes on to the City Council. And so I expect that to take place in the next few months. And I don't foresee any problems. Oh, and of course, I left this out. We want to do the education and outreach with those people that live in the MRCCA. And so I apologize. That's a big component of this. So I would also like some comment on that as well. So I will stop sharing my screen. And with that, I am open to questions, comments, feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Finwall. That was amazing and very organized. I'm impressed. Does anybody have any questions, first of all? I have a few things, but I'm going to get to my gallery view so I can see everybody. Hold on a second. There we go. Does anybody have any questions for Sean? I guess one of the things I wanted to point out was how to structure our feedback for you. If you want it per section, like we did with some of the other larger projects that we've tackled, or you know, do you want to tackle it section by section, or do you just kind of want to look at the whole thing? And do you have any preference, Ms. Finwell? Oh, you're muted. Hello.
Maybe just to start, to see if there's any general questions, big picture items, and then we could go section by section, but I know it was a lot to get through. So starting with general questions and big, broad picture comments.
I have a question. Will you be including diagrams from the model ordinance in the final ordinance?
I should, but if, you know, in the essence of time, I left that out. So that's a very good point. The model ordinance does include very helpful and informative diagrams. You know, our zoning code per se generally has not. We certainly, our overall zoning code could use some updating, which we will be getting to. But yes, I agree with you. Those should be included, but in the essence of time, as you can see, just trying to format this document was challenging. So I'm going to make sure that's in there next time, all the diagrams that pertain to the areas that we're including. Thank you.
Commissioner Palzer, I see you're ready. Do you have a question? I saw you take a breath and lean.
Yeah, no, you're correct that it was a lot to get through, but then I got to, in the packet, the red text, and I was like, that's the stuff. Like, that's what we're looking at, maybe minus those diagrams. And so I was trying to figure out, I guess maybe my question would be, do you think that there's any huge sticking points? Are there, like, in your opinion, really big things that we need to tackle, like compared to some of the other ordinances that we have worked on, where we really had, you know, some debates about wording and sticking points? It seemed like a big thing to bite off, but to me, just as I was reviewing this, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That looks pretty good. Like, it didn't seem like there was anything that stood out of like, oh, we have to change that. So am I just really reading that wrong, that it looks pretty complete? Like, there's not anything. Am I wrong about that?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Palzer, they certainly, the DNR certainly did a very thorough job. There's probably a lot more in here than needs to be for Maplewood's purposes, but I think the vegetative management we should take a strong look at, and the non-conformities.
Okay.
Because those are, I think, two things that are really different for us.
Okay.
Well, and I think that if the setback is moved to 100 feet instead of 40, the people who have houses that are closer, I would think that their property value would go up because nobody can build by them. They're going to have to be back more than twice that, you would think. I see one of the questions I had was the definition of structures. It has signs in there, and I saw in one of the previous ordinances that they were not allowing signs that had that were selling products or anything like that on the property, unless they had to deal with and then encourage people to use the property. So like for the Fish Creek thing. So it might be good to, you know, we're not going to sell out pieces of the land for billboards and stuff like that.
You know, they did have quite a bit of detail on signage.
Hmm.
And of course, Maplewood has a sign code that would
Right.
prohibit really a billboard in that area.
Okay.
And
I just
we
didn't know
don't-
if it would consider that area.
Yeah, we don't have any businesses down there. If it's a home occupation, they're allowed a small sign. So I really didn't include much of that signage language except for in the open spaces. They talk about educational kiosks and things like that.
Right. I
Because
was just thinking
thought
because
our
it's by
current
494.
494, yeah. Well, that's a good point. So let me just look at our sign code to make sure I'm not missing something on the billboard issue. But I am, you know, I have gone through this before on our billboards. And years ago, we did a study and assessment back when Clear Channel installed those dynamic display signs. It was determined that there's really not an area in Maplewood that anyone could ever put a billboard without a variance because
Okay.
of the current restrictions on you have to be set back from an entrance or exit to a freeway, you have to be set back from existing signs and so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean that I'm not missing something. So I'll take a closer look at that.
Okay. Yeah, that was just my question. I noticed that you'd be able to see it from the highway. So I was like, let's make sure that that's covered. But no, it did look very complete. I was kind of impressed, yo. That's the one thing is I can't like read and look at you guys. So if you have anything, just kind of bust in. I'm okay with that today.
All right. Well, we were took some broad-based questions there. So if you wanted to go through the sections, we could just do that. I know just throw out your comments because whatever you have is helpful for me as we move forward. If that's okay, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. And thank you for going and checking it out. I did not get a chance to. So I'm glad that you did and took pictures.
I kind of envisioned you and your boys taking that beautiful.
Well, we had my kids got grounded.
Uh-oh.
They're right over here. And I ended up taking some kids from the school who were kind of in lockdown for a while to the park, and they could play in different areas because they aren't allowed usually out. So I went and enjoyed the daylight. My kids had to stay home.
Well, I hope you all get out there soon.
We will.
Maybe we could just start by looking at the definitions. Any definitions stand out to you that don't make sense or need revising? Yeah, so on the ordinance, it's attachment 4, and you can see the red underlined is all the new information, and then only that the remaining text, you know, was from the existing code, and much of that has been now crossed out. So it was really a minimal code.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're doing this. Land located within 20 feet of the top or the bottom of the bluff.
Should ordinary high water level be included? So I think the acronym is used throughout the document at one point, but I don't see a definition here.
So I had left that out because we don't really have any public waters within that corridor.
Do we have flood area, flood zone?
But if we're mentioning it in our ordinance, I should include it. I didn't, I'll search for that. So, like in our shoreland ordinance, which is land within 1,000 feet of any public water body, like a lake. And of course, Mississippi River is a public water, but it's not within our boundary, and we're not 1,000 feet, we're further than 1,000 feet away. That's when you call out this ordinary high water mark and setbacks to that and so forth. But thanks for pointing that out. They did include that definition in the model ordinance. I left it out because we don't have public waters there, but I'll check to see if we're referencing it anywhere, and if so, we should include that definition. Thank you.
It's very possible I'm making this up too and just getting confused. So,
well, it's in the model
we'll give
ordinance.
that caveat.
You're not making it up. You're being very thorough. What you're
Yes,
doing.
that's good. That's good. Before you guys joined the commission, we were actually saying how we, one of the other commissioners that retired from the commission was very, very detail oriented. We were saying how we really were going to miss that. So I'm glad.
I might be missing it, but I don't see the shore impact zone. I think that was mentioned as well. Or maybe it was in the model and not in the...
Yay, too.
Correct. Left it out purposely
Okay.
because I don't think we have any shore impact zone,
Okay.
but I will just verify. Thanks for noticing that and bringing it up. And one thing which I think you might find interesting is previously we had a minimal description of bluff line and then slope. We called it significant slope.
Right.
What we were trying to protect out there. And you can see that has changed now to encompass, maybe they're a little similar. So if you look at bluff, and then you look at steep slope, which was our old language. I don't know. One thing that will make enforcing this code much easier is all the work that the DNR did on that mapping of the, I gotta find out what they call it again, those sensitive areas anyway. So we as a city now have the layers of all the bluff impact zones and, you know, how close that is to existing homes and so forth. Well, thank you for your review on the definitions there. The section on generally, again, goes into enforcement, underlying zoning.
Is it just me, or does this seem easier when you start out with basically nothing rather than taking like the urban or the other stuff and trying to change it? And this seems really well done, Sean.
Well, it's all hard.
Yeah.
It's hard in a group to collaborate in this manner. So I appreciate you sticking with it here. And we do have, you know, ordinances on variances and conditional use permits, but this outline, similar to our wetland ordinance, some additional conditions that they would have to kind of prove to get the variance and the conditional use permit. So this will be helpful in the future.
Mhm.
This area also includes the nonconformities, which is on page 5. Starts item D there. And our city code also includes regulations on any non-conforming structure or land use. You know, it talks about if that structure, let's say, was burnt down or a tornado took it down, they could rebuild according to the non-conforming ordinance if they obtained a permit within 180 days after it was destroyed. So they could rebuild that nonconformity according to our current city code. So I should actually make sure that that doesn't conflict with what the rules are intending here. But I don't think it's anyone's intent to, you know, create an unbuildable lot ever.
Right.
That's already pre-existing.
Yes, one question I had here is like with sheds, could you rebuild a shed or expand a shed, or is it only the principal structure that you can rebuild that's non-conforming?
Well, the non-conforming ordinance, Well, first I should say, somewhere in this code, don't they include setbacks for decks and sheds? And okay, sorry, this is all a little new to me as well, but
because decks are specifically called out as not being able to go into the bluff impact zone.
Right.
I was just curious, since you'd mentioned that you'd seen sheds on your hike. If,
right. Could
if
you
that
have
would
that
be
section right offhand on the decks? Since you're Commissioner Tude gets points because I can tell he read it. Maybe on section 15587, structure height and placement. Oh boy.
So on the in the packet, it's on ENR packet page 2452, section 7.5 that starts at the top, I believe.
Are you on the amended ordinance with the red underline?
On the black and
Oh,
blue.
yeah.
So it's so it's not in the red, not in ours in the example ordinance. So it's page 16 of the model ordinance or packet page 24.
Let's see. Decks and patios and setback areas.
Yeah.
I wonder if I didn't include that. All right, well, number one, we were talking about sheds, but let me make sure that I've included decks and patios and setback areas if I have not. And then regarding sheds, Um, I must admit, I'm sure it can't be in the shore impact zone. So, but as far as rebuilding it, I'll have to check on that as far as the nonconformity of a shed.
So on page 6 in the red, there's a part that says legally non-conforming principal structures that do not meet the setback requirements may be expanded laterally, provided that that's number 4. Is that, I mean, just the building, or does that include the decks too?
Okay, so that's just the main structure.
Right.
So then, if you had a shed or garage, a detached garage that was closer to the shore impact zone and it was destroyed, it could not be rebuilt according to
Right.
this ordinance.
Because the setback averaging is just for principal structures then?
Could you?
And
No.
what section was that, Commissioner Miller?
Page 6 in the red. It's 4A. Under nonconformities. So at the bottom, it'll say in our packet, page number 39 of 52.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you cannot expand on a shed or garage if it's within that impact zone.
Right, only laterally.
Well, this says only principal structures.
Right.
But I'm going to dig further to see, what about sheds and garages?
Right.
All right.
Right.
All right, so that was an area I thought the non-conforming we should pay attention to, but we'll just move on if you're ready to the next section.
Yeah.
And this one goes into the MRCCA districts, and this is basically from the rules, and it describes what our district is, this rural and open space. So I don't think there's anything to discuss there.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Special land uses. They had a whole host of kind of examples of special land uses, and this basically says that anything allowed in the underlying zoning should be allowed, but they did have some other examples, and one that I thought could be a possibility out there is this wireless communication tower.
Yeah.
Because you could have a tower. Well, I forget what the language is. On any zone with a conditional use permit, but not a single family. Well, anyway, this is something that we might see, so I included this language on the wireless communication towers. Normally, those would require a conditional use permit, and you see them in, you'll see them on churches, you know, other land areas within the city of Maplewood. And all of them were approved through a conditional use permit process. But this talks about, you know, minimizing those impacts to the public river corridor.
Right, because the building of them sometimes will encroach. I remember we had some issues with that deck coming in on a marsh area.
So I'm going to kind of compare that ordinance to the existing communication tower ordinance and make sure we're covering everything.
Okay.
Then on the structure height and placement, here you see they're limited to 35 feet, which shouldn't really affect anything because the homes out there are limited to 35 feet. Well, I do see ordinary high water level setbacks, so you're right, there are some of those included.
Does that need to be included though? So just
Right.
if there are no homes nearby, you could just have the bluff setback.
Most of the time I caught that because it would say required, meets the required bluff and ordinary high water level setbacks. And I would catch it and remove but this one I did not. So I'll just check that, make sure. And then here it talks about the 100-foot setback to a bluff line, you know, unless it's exempt, like a big bridge, I was saying. But it does say impervious surface, so this is kind of interesting. Structures and impervious surface must not be placed in the bluff impact zone unless identified as exempt in that section. But I should see what they're calling out as impervious surface. Like, could you do, I don't know, a basketball court back
Right.
there? You know, could you do a little
Swimming
patio?
pool.
Swimming pool? Yeah. Maybe come up with a definition for that if they don't already.
Boy, that would really be terrible though if you'd missed the basket and it went down the bluff. That'll teach you.
I did see some balls down in that ravine, so
I bet.
I wonder. So then on the performance standards for public facilities, and again, this would go into basically how the city and the county are managing the open space. But it's all things that we really should be doing anyway.
Right.
Minimizing disturbance during bird migration and nesting times, you know, all of this
Yeah.
we are looking at with our management plans.
I actually have nothing marked. Oh, jeez. My dog had something to say. Sorry.
I had to adjust the cord on my laptop was problem solved. All right. There's a lot here, so I want to make sure and of course include review by other various departments, including our parks and our natural resource coordinator. So this will be a big component of their review, which they have not done yet. It's a process. And then the second item that they really need to review, especially our natural resources coordinator, will be the vegetative management.
Right. Oh. Sorry. Let me mute myself. All the animals and pets and people are tired of being quiet all day for me.
Not a problem.
And the puppy sounds so sad. And this one's getting him going.
All right, well, I didn't hear the puppy have any concerns with that one, so we'll move on. Land alteration standards and stormwater management. And, you know, this really goes into erosion control, and I should really make sure that this is consistent with our current stormwater management ordinance. And of course, our public works and engineers will be reviewing this. And then a few more sections here. Subdivision and land development standards. And this really goes into planned unit development and master plan development and redevelopment of land involving 20 or more acres, including smaller individual sites within the following developments. So, like a minor subdivision consisting of 3 or fewer lots would be exempt, and that's probably the most we would see in our lifetime. But we still have to include this language according to the rules. But if we did have large tracts of land, they're calling out that a certain percentage of it be designated as a primary conservation area, so it'd be set aside as open space. And then the last section is exemptions, and I'm not sure that all of these apply, but I pulled out the ones I thought might. And some of them are exempt from the height or setback restrictions, like historic properties and contributing properties in historic districts, which we don't have a historic district down there, but public utilities, that would be a big one, like stormwater facilities, public transportation facilities, things like that we might see down there.
So if there is a section of the bluff that falls away, do we need to revisit a lot of this stuff, or does it just, I mean, I don't know how that works. If parts of it are falling away, I don't know if they're losing land right now at all, or.
Oh, wow.
I live on a bluff.
You used to?
I used to, yeah.
Yeah. We don't have that issue in Maplewood right now.
Okay. I haven't been out there, so I don't know what the slopes.
But we heard from our speaker last month that some cities are having that issue.
Yeah, Lilydale, somebody got crunched.
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, that happened, like we were talking about it on the Mississippi River down further. Is
Mendota Heights, were they saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's what happens with limestone. Water. But I just yeah. Anyway, I just wondered.
Have one of our engineers come before the commission and talk about slopes and bluffs and what we're seeing in Maplewood. I think that would be very informative.
What the geology is down there.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, because I mean, if it's already got a ton of tunnels and holes and it's loose, that's different than if it's, the clay, which is around here too.
Years ago, back when we started looking at the slope ordinance, not because of the MRCCA, but just because we were updating all the environmental codes, we took a tour with the Environmental Commission. I loaded them all up in a van, and we drove around and we looked for slopes, and you would not believe how hilly some of Maplewood is and some of the slopes that are out there.
Well, especially by the river. The Mississippi used to be so much wider. The bluffs are crazy.
Yeah, but even in other areas not by the river, there's quite a few slopes. And anyway, I wish we could do fun stuff like that. But
I know, right? We could do a train.
Someday soon. A train?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing, it sounds terrible to say drive-bys, but for kids who are doing really well, we'll do a teacher parade by their house. So, oh, my goodness. Stop it.
All right. Well, that is the end of our review. So again, it's a process, and I have some good feedback from you. Thank you. And as you can imagine, it's hard to put something like this together, and so it's going to take a while for me to let it all sink in and compare our current ordinance to what's being proposed. And so I'll come back with additional refinements, and I'll ask one of our engineers to join us during our next meeting as well.
That would be great. Does anybody have any follow-up ideas, concerns before I kick my dog out the door? Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Finwell. Very, very well done. And oh my goodness.
Well, there's no motion or anything needed, but if you're ready to move on, we can go ahead.
Okay. Any new business? Anybody? How's it looking? You guys are gonna stay virtual at the city, except for you rebel breaking in.
Madam Chair, I had heard that the City Council was considering a hybrid model for their meetings beginning next year. So some of the council members will be in the council chambers and others will not. But now with the spike in the COVID cases, I'm not sure. But it seems to be working okay for us virtually, unless I should get your feedback on that. We don't have to do that this meeting, but I'll bring it up maybe next month.
Okay, that sounds good. I think it's going really well, actually. It's nice to not have to get a babysitter or somebody to make sure my house isn't burning down. Of course, I do have dogs barking in the background.
Well, I see cats. I have been working from home for a while, and yeah, my dog sits and stares at me all day, and then the second I move, she jumps up thinking it's the next walk or something. But the thing that's most disruptive is if I don't close the front shades, anyone that walks by, dog, she's just pouncing on the windows. So today I was in a meeting and that was happening in the background. It was so embarrassing. So we've all been there. I'm sure you guys have even funnier stories than that.
Oh no, that's good. My little puppy got to meet turkeys the other day, so that was exciting. He was very impressed. We'll just say that. Great, thank you. Any visitors? Not a body. Hi, everybody. Commissioner presentations. Anybody forget anything they want to bring up?
Just one thing, as you guys were talking about the in-person meetings or hybrid and city council. So Commissioner or Council Member Juniman has been our liaison for quite some time. She didn't run for re-election, so that means that her time on city council is over. So one, I presume that means maybe we'll get a new council liaison, but I just was thinking, is there typically an official way to thank or pass that along to Councilmember Juniman, just because she has been such a helpful partner to our commission over the years. Thank
you, Madam Chair and Commissioner Palzer, for bringing that up. Councilmember Juniman actually has a few years left because they switched the elections to all during state elections.
Yeah.
So it added like a year to her. So she was the only council member that wasn't up for re-election I
missed that. Okay, I apologize. Period. Well, anyway, we still appreciate her. And
yeah,
I guess that's good. We don't have to say goodbye.
And she was attending our meetings. She loved to participate in our meetings, but she has some challenges with the Zoom meetings, like many of us. It's hard for her to participate in this way.
Yeah, that's okay. She's
still out there, very active, as you know. Commissioner Miller as her neighbor.
She's my neighbor. She goes for walks quite a bit. So does her husband. They stop by.
Don't tell her that I miscalculated her term.
Well, you didn't. It just changed. It added.
Okay.
You're good.
Of course, we do have 2 new council members beginning next year, and So that'll be a change. And every year they do appoint council members to be the lead of the various commissions. And they usually do that end of January or beginning of February. And over the last few years, it has been council member, Juniman.
That's right. Well, maybe I'll run over and sit outside her window and show her how to do it through the window. She doesn't even like having, won't even do computer at home. She never even did her
Quite
email.
savvy. I think it's just a problem with it's tough to sit through and focus. I don't know. Anyway.
And,
she's out there rooting for us.
She's a busybody for sure. All right. And staff presentations.
Yeah, so I just wanted to update you on the Nature Center Task Force meetings. And this was the third meeting. Look for my notes here. Here we go. So this was the third task force meeting that they have held to discuss plans for the Nature Center since it had been shuttered earlier this summer, and how we can move forward, hopefully with partnerships and so forth, to bring back the Nature Center and the naturalist or environmental education in some manner. So on the task force, there's individuals that were appointed by our council from residents, friends of Maplewood Nature. We have, of course, Commissioner Okeson is a representative for the ENR. But their meetings are videotaped, so if you're ever interested in reviewing those are online. You just go on the city's website and search for Nature Center Task Force. But their last meeting was held on November 5th. It was the third meeting. And during this meeting, they discussed environmental education, service levels, partnerships, financial investments, best use of the site and building. And I watched almost all of it until our meeting tonight here, and they were having quite a lively discussion about how to move forward. And I appreciate all that they're doing there to try and come up with a plan for bringing that back in some manner. But right now, the Nature Center grounds are still open to the public. So if you ever want to get out and take a hike, we're still, of course,
Is the trail being
those.
maintained? Yeah, you are. Sorry. Nice.
And their next meeting will be in, December. And I know they're starting to kind of correlate some recommendations to the city council.
All right.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything anybody else wants to bring up or thinks that we should?
Mom, give it.
You got to come over here. Wants to maybe throw on the agenda for next month. I got my little dude here again.
Move your laptop on my phone.
Oh, don't hit my laptop. Yeah, wait. Not yet. Not yet. Here, I'll let you. There you go. All right. So if I need a motion. Not yet.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Palzer makes a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Yay. Commissioner, wait, Doser?
Doser.
Doser. Ah, I'm going to get it. I'm so sorry.
And then sir, yeah.
Doser. Okay, I'm going to spell it. Okay. Second in the motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:10 p.m. on November 16th, 2020. What time?